It's the season to be jolly, to spend time with loved ones and to get cosy in front of the fire, surrounded by all those who know you best. That's what Reading FC are doing this holiday season, all wrapped nice and warm in lovely mid-table security. You can't get any more snuggly than 14th. Speaking of warm and snuggly, I'm joined this week for the Christmas special of the Tilehurst End Podcast by three troubadours of Reading FC knowledge and bountiful everything. It's the award ceremony, so I'm going to be hoping they'll come and have some good, cracking expert opinions on the awards and on the 2-0 defeat to Ipswich, which we may skate over a little bit. So first off, it's Chris Hartley joining us. How's it going, mate?
Hello again. I'm okay, thank you. Would have been better if Reading hadn't have lost on Saturday, but there we go.
And Steve Curtis is with us as well, aka Royal Hoops.
Merry Christmas.
And making his debut for the show and hosting us tonight as we're here in the Ibis Styles Hotel on the Oxford Road, it's Dave Berry. How's it going, Dave?
Hi, good evening. Welcome to my work home, and thanks for having me on the programme. And some of you may recognise me as Ali G from the good old days.
The great thing with the podcast is we can't explain that in any way, can we? So we'll crack on then, and we'll talk about the Ipswich defeat to begin with in the recap, and then obviously we'll have the awards ceremony for the 2017 Reading FC calendar year to begin with. So let's crack on then with the recap.
View from the Tilehurst End, recapping this week's championship action.
A 2-0 defeat then at Portman Road, and if you listened to last week's show, I'd have said to Handbags Harris how Reading actually do pretty well at Portman Road in the last few seasons. It wasn't to be on Saturday. As I said, 2-0 defeat, both goals coming in the first half. Reading didn't really make a dent in this game. If you watch the highlights, there was one chance that I can really think of. But overall, I mean, Chris, this wasn't the sort of game that Jaap Stam will be thinking about, or any Reading fans will be thinking about much into the future.
No, I think the best way that you can sum it up was with the word abject. Second half especially, there was, you think coming out 2-0 down at half time, you're going to try and get some attacking intent going. There was none of that. No supply to either Kermingen or Bodvarsson. Players getting into silly scraps, especially with the refereeing, picking up stupid yellow cards. The captain leading the way in that, where at one occasion I think he actually lost his head, and you were kind of concerned for the next 10 minutes that he could be a red card waiting to happen. We had quite a lot of yellow cards for this set, and I was following this on Twitter. It was like Barrow, and then another one, and then another. I don't know why it was something. Ipswich aren't a team that rile us up usually, are they?
It would have been frustration with themselves more than anything, I reckon. They would have been, I think, going there probably expecting at least a point. They would have been expecting to really give them a good game, hopefully beat them, and then they go down 2-0 and they're not really doing much of note, so they're probably getting frustrated with themselves as much as anything and lashing out at the opposition. Yeah, I think the sort of example that it summed it up was Bakuna's yellow card. It was particularly stupid. He had already won the free kick and he was upping at the referee who quite rightly booked him for dissent, and it's just, that's not normally Reading, thank God, but sort of just stupid yellow cards. Just absolute stupid yellow cards.
Any complaints with either of the goals then, Dave? The first one, I sort of thought Joey Vandenberg wasn't in shot at all, which would have been nice if he was around defending. Second one was a good move from a corner. I wouldn't say they were terrible goals to concede, but they weren't great either.
I agree. I think the midfield were not protecting the defence to start with, and the defence weren't communicating really at the same time and getting the foot in. It was just too easy cutting in and then scoring, in my opinion. Like you said, I think a lot of it comes down to frustration and lack of concentration at pitiable moments, I
mean, to me, that first goal was the worst of the two. The second one, you could argue, you can stop it because it's a corner, but it was a flicked on header and a good, strong header afterwards, so that's quite difficult to stop once you let that first header happen. The first goal was just a comedy of errors, and to be honest, it looked like Manoni should have done better with it. It looked a bit soft to let that in.
Actually.
It's one of those shots that you think the goalkeeper should be stopping that. It's one of those shots that, as back in the day, you would say that the keeper should put his hat on that to save it. There's no power on that.
Yeah, it wasn't particularly venomous. It was low. It was near post, so he should really have done better. But the shot shouldn't have been got off so easily. And for Bakuna, I think it was a particular nightmare because he was the one who lost the ball on the halfway line and sort of was looking more for the foul.
rather than sort of getting up and trying to get back and prevent that from happening. And I think in that moment it's just sort of summed up Reading's season.
Yeah, it's been an interesting sort of this game has summed up our season in a large sense, I think, because I want to ask you why Kermigan isn't scoring, because we had that chance, I think it's Dave Edwards in the first half, which was effectively cleared off the line. That would have made it 1-1 and would have put Reading back into the game very nicely. But Kermigan, he's come back and his support play has been strong, certainly away to Sunderland it was. But there's been no goals from him, and all season long I've felt like the defence hasn't been the problem. Our defensive record is roughly mid-table, roughly on the same level as the playoffs, but our scoring record is miles away from any team in the top 8 or 9 at the moment.
Yeah.
And is it Kermigan that needs to up his game? Is it the support play around him? What's going wrong there?
It's a bit of both, I think. Sort of, you can count on the on one hand the amount of chances he's had and clear cut of that. Going back to last Monday, he was the one that had the golden opportunity to seal the game at 3-0, and it was saved by Etheridge, the Cardiff goalkeeper. Etheridge, that's the guy. But I can't remember many chances that Jan has actually had that you say must have scored and he would have put away last season. So I kind of put it a portion to more of the blame down to the service that he's getting at this point. Also
you need to remember that he is still probably working his way back to full fitness from injury.
Yeah.
And last season was, pretty much a one-off. He's not going to score that many goals again. He was in the form of his life last season, and I think just generally that when the team isn't in form and not as confident as they were last season, he's not going to get as much ammunition to have a shot. And if he's working his way back to fitness, working his way back into form, how is he going to get into form if he's not having a chance to get back into shooting and goal scoring form?
Yeah, it's just one of those things. I think a striker out of form, but just coming back. I would actually like to see if they do bring in someone in the summer, January. Sorry, thinking ahead of myself. That he would play off Jan, and Jan would sort of sit a bit deeper, maybe sort of be a replacement for John Swift, who's seems seemingly made of glass at the moment.
That's bold. Feeling very experimental there, aren't you? Kermigan in midfield.
Well, why not? We're kind of mid-table,
Well, he plays centre back sometimes.
Yeah,
he's very defensive forward.
Yeah.
To be honest, I sort of saw this one coming. I predicted it in the prediction league that we're going to lose it. Ipswich are a decent team this year. We can't forget that. At home, it's the sort of team that maybe you can go away from home and maybe pick up a point or lose. At home, you should be beating them, but we play them later in the season, so we'll have to see exactly where we match up then. My final point on this game, because we really want to get off it and get onto the awards, to be honest, is, David, I don't know if you were there for the Derby game when we won 4-2 and Omar Richards started and had a cracking performance, really, but that seems like it's going to go down as the Omar Richards game at the moment because he's not getting another chance as it stands. Tyler Blackett in at this game. What's your sort of feeling on Blackett? Because I don't think he was at fault for either of the goals, but when he goes into the team, a lot of fans are dismayed immediately, aren't they?
I agree with you. I don't think he was in fault. He's part of the scapegoat, and I think he's a very confident player. I think losing a beater has hit us harder than maybe what we expected, because Blackett is not a beater. I know that's been talked quite a bit about. It's a bit like Gunter. He's been used as a scapegoat at the moment. Collectively, they're just not doing it, and it's easy to point the finger. In my opinion, Stam doesn't fancy Blackett, and it's almost like he's forced to use him because of a beater. And I feel a bit sorry for Richards. I think next year will be the proper break for Richards, in my opinion. I think
spoilers for the awards.
I know. Shocking.
Breakout prediction.
We're gonna just one thing on Blackett. I think there was a stat floating around Twitter saying that in his last 7 games he has played, and obviously he hasn't started a lot so far this season, that Reading haven't won in any of them. Well, he's becoming a bit of a Gareth Bale. If you remember that run.
Bring him on at the last minute when we're winning 3-0 and you'll break that.
Well, to be fair, he did come on very late on against Derby, so he did win that game. He just didn't start.
Yeah.
I still don't view him as a left back. I think he's a centre back playing out of position, and he's being moved to left back because Abita's out injured.
Yeah.
Richards isn't fully trusted yet, and Blackett did it a little bit when he was at United, so therefore he's kind of a. I mean, we said last season, we've said this season, he's more of a left-sided centre-back in a back three. Yeah. That is his ideal position. We're not playing a back three at the moment, so left-back will have to do.
I think also, coming from United, I think the fans expect a lot more because of his education, because Stam was a defender from United. I think that brings almost added pressure as well, you know, from the fans and probably on himself as well, and he is a confidence player.
I've been to a couple of League Cup games earlier in the season, and Richards was a player that just didn't look out of place in that team. So it is a bit baffling as to why Stam, when you've got a natural left back and someone who looks good going forward and with balance aside, okay, he's young, you know, but sort of he hasn't done anything wrong in the first team yet.
But he's an actual left back. I think that's what bothers me the most, is when you play Blackett at left back, he's more of a centre back. You play Gunter at left back, he's a right back. So you're picking two players ahead of a natural left-footed left back just because they're more experienced. And it's kind of I guess for Stam, I'd rather have the experience there. We've already got a relatively inexperienced team, blah, blah, blah. But I think you've got to just go for it, because the two options he's playing there at the moment aren't. I mean, you know, Gunter at left back, Bacuna right back has worked, but it's, in an ideal world you wouldn't be playing that, because I think I'd rather have Bacuna in midfield.
I mean, I'm going to put an end to this conversation now, because we are labouring on a point which I think isn't
going to reach a solution.
No.
Well, no. I mean, it's more a case of it's doom and gloom, and I want to have some fun, and we're going to do some awards, and this is the Christmas special, so we can get in our Christmas cheer and talk about all sorts of things, such as the most missed player, the most underachieving player, and of course the best player, and that will be coming up just in a second.
The Tilehurst End Podcast. Read the blog on thetilehurstend.com.
Well, it's that time of year, everybody. It's time to put some silverware on the table. We don't get to do it much at Reading, but we're going to hand out some trophies now and hand out the Player of the Year for 2017 award from the Tilehurst End, and this has some esteemed company in it over the years. 2013 is Alex McCarthy, 2014 Jordan Obita, 2015 Ollie Norwood, and last year was Ali Al-Habsi. This year before you guys speak, I know who's won it, because we've already got Tom Crocker from the Woking Paper, the podcast extra host Ollie Allen, and the website editor Sim to all send in their nominations as well. They've all gone for Liam Moore. So if anyone has anything to say about that, speak now or forever hold your peace.
If this had been done pre-August, I think Jan Kermorgant would have been in there. He came on strong really at the back end of last season, scored the most important goals, arguably. And I would also argue for Jordan Obita for his importance to the side, as we're seeing now. But there's no doubt it's Liam Moore. It's got to be. Yeah,
it's got to be Liam Moore, but you can make a strong argument for Kermorgant because recency bias plays into this, right? Everyone thinks
naturally.
more this season naturally. But last season, we got to the playoffs and we got past Fulham because Kermorgant was so good. So, you know, he does deserve a mention, even though Liam Moore gets it.
An honourable runner-up, yeah.
I totally agree, and also think if Danny Williams was still with us as well, I think he would be in the mix as well, because he played really well towards the end of last season too.
Agreed.
Yeah, I wonder about Liam. I think that his attacking contribution has been improved this second half of the season. Obviously, he's been all generally steady defensively, but I think his defensive work has improved this half of the season, or this half of the calendar year rather. I'd actually have to say that the way that he puts himself about on the pitch plays a large amount into this, because he doesn't get sent off very often. You don't generally see him picking up cynical yellow cards. You don't see him, complaining to the referee a lot. I mean, we talk about model professionals and role models and that sort of thing, but to be honest, I do genuinely think that Liam Moore is one of those people you can't have too many of around the club.
No, he comes across as one of the nicest guys as well. And in post-match interviews, he's honest, and you need that.
He's a natural leader as well. If McShane were to leave in January, Moore would get the captaincy, you'd say.
I think it's more the other way round, but if anything does happen. So.
Yeah, well, so let's not talk about any departures.
Being positive.
Yeah.
But I think Liam Moore is the only player in the squad that would be picked for a Premier League side and be put straight in their starting. He's good enough to play in the Prem.
I think the one thing you can say about Liam Moore is he's had that consistent year throughout the year. The other two that we've mentioned in that, Kirmigan, he kind of, the injuries kind of curtailed his year, unfortunately, and same with Ibis, because I would have been interesting to see how Ibis would have improved, because he was under Stam at the back end of last season. He was becoming you talk about goal contribution, he was contributing goals from the back at the back end of last season as well.
Well, there we go then, everybody. Congratulations to Liam Moore for the Tilehurst End 2017 Player of the Year. Light applause for that. Most improved player then, and this is where it does get interesting. Tom Cocker's gone with Liam Kelly. Joey Vandenberg is Sim's pick, whereas Ollie Allen has gone for Jordan Obita for the Most Improved award. Jordan Obita has already won the Most Improved award, actually. Jordan Obita won the Most Improved award in 2013, then in 2015 he won the Hal Robson-Kanu award for underachievement. So is he now going to go full circle and in 2017 become Most Improved again?
It's a vicious cycle.
For me, yes. I think you can see Stam's coaching in him. He's now fully, you can say he's now the left back at the club, whereas before it was very much up in the air as to whether he would be starting. He is now sort of pre-injury, you would say that he would be the number one choice at left back, and for a player that's kind of wasn't a natural left back to begin with, I think you kind of got to give him a lot of credit for that.
I could agree, but equally I think Liam Kelly is a very good shout. Now recently he hasn't been that great, but if you think this time last year he was kind of getting into the squad, and now he's a regular player in the first team, starting games, contributing. I just think compared to this time last year, he probably is the most improved, because Jordan Obita was still in the squad, starting every game, whereas Liam Kelly wasn't, and now he is.
I agree about Liam Kelly, especially how far he's come in the last year or two from Bath City and so forth, so he must have improved. Plus he's international player in some squads as well now, not consistently just yet, but I think that will come over the next couple of years. So I think looking from start to finish, he's jumped the most.
Another shout that I would put in there is George Evans. I think he's one of those players that's you kind of can rely upon now. And for a young for a young player, and unfortunately again he's another one that's picked up an injury and has been out for a while.
I would have George Evans as maybe next year's candidate for Most Improved player. If he can cement his place as be a real first team indispensable player, he would be my candidate for 2018 Most Improved by some distance.
I would actually argue if he hadn't have picked up the injury, he would be that player that you say he would be cemented.
Yeah, maybe
in
so.
That team.
I mean,
who would he replace?
For me, it would be Joey. I think sort of Dave Edwards seems to have established himself in that team, and he's another one that is a bit of a leader.
Evans is less likely to do something stupid.
Yes, we agree on that.
Like get sent off.
My dislike of Joey is well documented. But yeah, I think Most Improved for me, my vote is Liam Kelly.
Dave, where's your vote going then?
Yeah, Liam Kelly as well.
Jordan Obita.
I think I'm going to have to go with Liam Kelly, and therefore it is Liam Kelly takes the award for Most Improved Reading player.
Well done, Liam.
Nice little clap. I mean, to be fair, some people might say that his improvement began halfway through 2016, but I mean, even so, the fact that he maintained his place in the team from January all the way through a playoff push,
and was top scorer for a while.
And he started the season very well. I mean, he's not quite in the team at the moment. Well, he's kind of in and out of the team at the moment, isn't he? But yeah, I think that's a very well-deserved award, and it's nice to see an academy player. Once again, we've had Jake Cooper win the award before as well, so it's another academy player picking up Most Improved, and onto the Hal Robson-Kanu award for underachievement. In 2013 and 2014, this went to a bloke called Hal Robson-Kanu. In 2015, this went to Jordan Obita, as mentioned before, and Jake Cooper won it in 2016. So there is a thing about Most Improved players picking up the Underachievers award. Tom Cocker's gone for Tyler Blackett, as we were talking about earlier in the show. Thiago Ilori is Sim's pick, and Ollie has gone for Sonny Aluko.
I hadn't even thought of it.
Now, Sonny Aluko is also my nomination for this, because when you sign someone for £7.5 million or £5 million or whatever it is, I think that you're getting a ready-made player. And what we haven't had in Sonny Aluko is a ready-made player. I thought we played relatively similar to Fulham. I thought he was going to drop in, do what he does for Fulham, link it well enough with players who should know what they're each other about. They played in the same league long enough, and jobs are good and get a few goals. But aside from the Derby performance, where he scored one of the best goals of the season, I'm not sure that I've really seen Sonny Aluko be better than Mo Barrow even, and that was kind of a given when we signed him.
There's one name that I'm going to throw in there that no one's actually mentioned, and it's Gareth McCleary. Gareth McCleary, for the last 12 months, what has he actually done?
Been injured a lot.
Been injured a lot. He had a good run of goals towards the back end of last year. This year he hasn't hit the back of the net, and he was a regular in the stand towards the end of in the last season and at the start of this season. I think he's one that's kind of he's been allowed to drift at times, and he's now, you could see the form was starting to dip after he signed that new long-term deal, the three-year deal.
Yeah. When Aluko and Barrow joined in the summer, you thought there were two ways this could go. Either they'd help push him on and keep him consistent and up there at his very best, or he'd get drowned out by the competition. Sadly, it looks like he's been drowned out by the competition. Underachievement. Before Marc mentioned the Aluko, because he totally left my head, I was going to say Ilori, because we signed him for a then record fee. He joined from Liverpool, had pedigree playing for other big top tier clubs around Europe, and we kind of just instantly thought, great, he'll go in the team, he'll partner Liam Moore, that'll be one of the best centre-back pairings in the Championship.
Right.
And he's not. Paul McShane is still there.
I would argue with Ilori that he had a very good first half or second half of last season. He had a very good first half of 2017. It's been the second half that's kind of dropped out for him.
I think ever since the injury against Middlesbrough, which was at the time you thought was a potential season ender, with how he kind of, the amount of blood he lost and sort of the gash he had on the side of his head, I didn't think we'd see him again this side of Christmas, and arguably we shouldn't have seen him again this side of Christmas with his performance against Wolves. But
I just think because of it's similar to the Aluko thing. He joined with this reputation and pedigree, like the other Blackett nominations as well. All these players join with expectation and pedigree and look like ready-made players to drop into the starting 11, and none of the three of them are particularly impressed. So you could easily go for any of them.
So is your nomination resting on?
No, I'm going to say Aluko.
It is resting on Sonny Aluko. You're going for McCleary, Chris?
I'm going for McCleary, just on the thing that, as a player, he's one that, when he's on form, he does get you off your seat. He can put a good ball in, but we haven't seen that for the whole of 2017, and he has played, and he did start the season, and, it's one of those things where he maybe needs to be challenged, but he hasn't shown what he can do.
Dave, where's your nomination dropping in on this one then?
I'm going to snap with Aluko. Quite simply, the amount of money we've paid for, we could have only dreamed of even 2 years ago, and spending that money, and he just hasn't sadly lived up to it. He's getting a little bit more consistent and getting the odd goal, but he's got to be banging him 10 to 15 goals a season comfortably for that sort of money, I would say.
Well, sort of, if you watch the Cardiff game, and I'm not changing my mind on this, but I'm just going to back you up on Aluko. He was anonymous in that Cardiff game.
Yeah.
Absolutely anonymous. And, okay, he had the one shot that, again, he was a little bit unlucky with. But that was it. You can't... That was the moment. That was the one moment you kind of can point to him in the game.
The underachievement award tends to go to players that we have high expectations of,
exactly.
Like Hal Robson-Kanu. We all knew he would be better than he was. And for Aluko, I think in the summer we were all talking about him being the final piece of the jigsaw. Him coming into the squad would transform us into some majestic possession tiki-taka beast, and we're not.
It hasn't happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just a final word on underachieving award. It's not like we're throwing Sonny Aluko under the bus.
No.
We still believe that he has the potential. All these things that we talked about are still there. We're not saying that he's a bad player. We just believe that his adaptation period to the Reading team has taken, I think, a few weeks longer than any of us really anticipated or expected. So there it is. I mean, it's the Underachievement Award, and it goes to our record signing, Sonny Aluko. No applause. Let's move on then. Golden moment. We definitely have some applause at the end of this. Playoff centric, as one might imagine. We've had Jan Kermigant's penalty against Fulham is Tom Crocker's award. Jordan Obita's goal against Fulham is Sims. And the full-time whistle versus Fulham is Ollie's. So, I mean, it's going to be Fulham or first leg or second leg. I'm going to separate those into. So 2 for the second leg, 2 for the first leg. Steve, let's start with you.
I'm going to go second leg because that whistle meant that we made it to the final. It's more significant.
That's how it works.
Exactly.
It's just a shame the final worked out how it did, right?
Yeah.
Oh, we'll have worse moments soon. Don't worry about
that. So after that second game, the whistle blew and it was like, oh my gosh, we've made it. Going into the game, we didn't expect to be in the playoffs at the start of the season. And then we didn't really expect to necessarily finish in them until the last month or 2 of the season. And then we made it, and we got drawn against Fulham, and everyone was a bit like, oh man, Fulham are the one team you don't want to go back against.
They were the favourites, weren't they?
Yeah. And then
5-1 we were.
Them in Sheffield Wednesday, if I remember, that was the dream final that everyone was hoping for.
Yeah.
Well, to be honest, the quality of the final, I can understand why everyone wanted something else. Let's not gloss over that. I mean, golden moment, I'm going to throw in some other ones just off the top of my head. I remember the Derby away game in the last few weeks ago, 4-2 away to Derby, a team. That's a coupon buster game. But having gone, obviously, as well, it was a big moment that I enjoyed. I'm actually going to have just thought of one that is my golden moment, and I'm pretty sure it was in January. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but the 2-0 comeback against Bristol City away from home was in January, and that was, that's my golden moment nomination, because that was a game when you lose that and you think, we're just a standard championship team. Bristol were awful. We were generally pretty good, had a lot of possession, and it felt like the win, even though we were 2-0 down, was always on the horizon. Get the goal back. Liam Kelly, we've just given him most people. He was absolutely magnificent that day, and sometimes you just got to hold your hands up and say, well done, Reading. You've actually sent every fan in the away stand home happy. That was a glorious day out. Jan Kermington scored in the last minute. Yes, there's questions about the goalkeeper, but we don't care about that. And, it's not going to win, but as a nomination, I'm going to throw in Bristol City away as my golden moment of 2017.
From my personal point of view, gamble aware, I won 4-2 on the Derby game. So I've got 200 to 1 on that, but I do that scoreline every game because I'm a dreamer after all these 20 years. Realistically, I think the Fulham second leg, because that finalised, one of the most unexpected seasons, if you like, ever in the history. I don't mean that in a negative point of view. I think because of all the changes behind the scenes and Stan coming in, we all hoped it wasn't expected. This season we expect, but now we're hoping. It's almost flipped. So I'm going Fulham second leg.
I'm going to throw 2 in, but they are both connected. And it's Luke Southwood and Danny Loader winning World Cups with England and representing Reading. Danny Loader, he contributed more than Luke Southwood. He scored a couple of goals in that tournament. Generally came across quite well. But how often can you say, and I think this is also something from the academy that, and it's testament to Eamon Dolan, that how often can you say that in Reading and at whatever level have produced players that are capable of getting in World Cup winning squads, and it's something I look back and I think that's an achievement.
But the academy success story was the 2014 winner of the Golden Moment Award. 2015 went to the Bradford FA Cup win as we got through the quarterfinals. 2016 last year was Piazzon scoring the clinching goal at home to West Brom in the FA Cup, which again meant we got through to the I think that was got to the quarters, the Bradford to the semis. I think that's Golden Moment this season. We've had it's kind of, I'm going to give it to the full-time whistle at Fulham as opposed to the penalty, because after the penalty there was still that worry that obviously you're going to get caught. and there was a good chance as well for Fulham, certainly a few good chances they were going to catch us. The full time, I mean, we don't get to enjoy playoffs very often as Reading fans, and that was a moment when there was no sense of, oh well, we might go and lose. It was just pure joy, and it's a rare thing you get in football. So the golden moment for 2017 Reading Football Club Tilehurst End Award is the full-time whistle against Fulham. So well done, boys. And now we go to the worst moment. And the worst moment might well be connected to what we've just spoken about.
It's an emotional rollercoaster, this.
This is bringing back all the old wounds and everything, isn't it? I mean, let's just quickly go through. Tom Cocker said the Liam Moore penalty against Huddersfield. Ollie Allen said Christopher Schindler's penalty for Huddersfield to win it, which is a moment which I've conveniently erased my memory. Sim said the 2-1 loss at Millwall, which showed how lifeless we've become since and how far we'd fallen since Wembley, which is a good point, I think. So, Dave, which particular penalty was the one that scarred you for life?
I'm not going to put it down to one particular penalty. I think it was the overall performance. We were expecting so much. We were lucky almost to get to the penalties because we made it, and then it was almost a bit flat to a certain extent. You know, so for me, it was the whole game. Really, to be honest with you, you know, was disappointing to say the least. After we played so well against Fulham.
I remember being at Wembley and being directly behind the goal, and I still don't, to this day, do not know how Izzy Brown managed to miss that header.
Oh yeah.
I still to this day do not understand that, because it was pretty much open goal.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the contrast between the two Fulham games and the final were just so ridiculous.
I think there's one key theme in here is that Jordan Abia did not start the final, and it's almost like he was the key player in that Fulham in the first leg against Fulham, especially with the goal. And
this is the Jordan and Peter Appreciation Podcast.
I love you, Jordan. Only kidding.
I think,
only kidding.
To be honest, I think the difference is if you look at how Huddersfield have been in the Premier League, is they have been a defensive team. They have generally tried to keep things down. They've only conceded, I think they've only conceded 4 goals maybe once or twice, which in the Premier League is a bit of an achievement. Certainly at the start of the season they were doing very well defensively. Attackingly, they're not such a great outfit. They're still not a great outfit, and they've spent a decent amount of money on their forwards in the Premier League. So the nature of the game as to the semi-final, Fulham, a buccaneering passing team that everyone loved, Huddersfield, a defensive team that only people love because of their manager. That's kind of how it was always going to go in a large extent. I mean, my worst moment, I think it's probably going to have to be Moore's penalty, purely because it came after the high of them missing their penalty, and us actually, that was as close as we got all season to being in the Premier League. Moore sending it over the bar. I mean, if he gets it saved, fair enough, but he sends it over the bar, which is just the worst way of doing it. And I mean, that's my nomination. I don't know if you're going for the performance then, Dave, what are you going for, Chris?
I've never felt, even in that season, last season, more embarrassed to be a Reading fan than when we got beat 7 at Norwich. A team that had just sacked their manager, couldn't buy a win, and we think the Ipswich performance on Saturday was abject. That performance against Norwich was just non-existent. I mean, to be 6-0 down before half-time, and sort of, it was embarrassing. I admire, you know, at the end of the day, it spurred us on. You know, we got to the playoff final, but that day just sticks in my memory.
I can see your argument, but I think the way we bounced back from that and then went on that run to get to the playoffs, you know, it hurt for like a day or a few days, but the playoff defeat probably still hurts now. You know, it's like a long-term.
Yeah, but I'm going off the basis of we always lose playoff finals anyway, so it's like it's standard form for Reading, and sort of we always find ways of losing playoff finals. But the 7-1, I mean, we'd taken some beatings.
Well, I mean, hold that thought on the 7-1, because we've got the comedy moment coming up soon and we need some nominations for that. So I'm going to hold the thought on that. At the moment, I mean, Moore's penalty's got 2 nominations at the moment. So, Steve, if you're going to
I can go for Moore's penalty.
No, you go for anything. I mean, if you make something that's going to level it up, then I've already gone for Moore's penalty, and I'm in charge here, so it's going to be Moore's penalty. So feel free to upset the apple cart, but I will put it back in its place.
I'll stick to the performance. I think just in contrast to the semi-finals was
fair. That's understandable. So I mean, it's going to be Moore's penalty is the worst moment of 2017. Just to run through the previous worst moments, we've lost 6-1 to Birmingham in 2014, Arsenal's winner at Wembley, bit of a theme there, 2015, and the handling of McDermott's sacking was 2016. So I mean, at least it's not a problem with the club. I think that 2016 one was really sour, how that McDermott sacking got handled. So I think it's a moment of, it's an individual error. I always think about the Moore penalty as we sit here for hours and hours on end talking about football and analysing it, and people get paid thousands of pounds to analyse it, and everything gets highlighted in minute detail. Reading didn't get promoted last season because a bloke kicked a ball over a crossbar. It's as simple as that, and that's just the moment that sums up the year for a large extent.
And I think to his credit, he's our player of the year despite that miss.
Yeah.
So it really kind of shows how impressive he is as a person.
I would like to see, if we do make another playoff final, he's in it, and we do go to penalties, I'd like to see a psycho moment, a Stuart Pearce moment from Liam.
I don't think I could handle that. So comedy moment then, we've had Neil Warnock getting sent off for Cardiff at home to Reading.
That's standard though at a Reading game,
That was Tom's moment. I enjoyed that, to be fair. Comedy moment for Sim was the fans calling for Stam to get sacked despite him getting us to a playoff final last season. Ollie has gone for when Fulham said they'd easily beat us in the playoffs and we made them look like mugs, which, I mean, yes, fair enough. I'm going to go for the Norwich defeat. We've just spoken about it for many reasons. If we're going for Fulham fans, I'd be tempted to go for Leeds fans, and then Leeds is descent back to the Premier League as a playoff team, and we just sort of sent them out, which was quite nice. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm going to go for the Norwich moment, not specifically because of the performance or the defeat, but afterwards someone put the Alan Partridge commentary over the goals, and it's just it's hilarious. Like, I can't deny that it's hilarious, and as comedy moments go, that's got to win it for me.
My comedy moment, well, it's not really a moment, do you remember the whole Piazon v Reading fans malarkey? Like, whatever that was all about, I have no idea, but they were tweeting and exchanging blows for weeks for no reason. It's like, yes, Piazon's doing well for Fulham, he didn't do well for Reading, and they just shout at each other. It's
not like he was disliked at Reading either. Reading fans didn't even dislike him. That's the bizarre thing.
I think they just started disliking him because he was doing well for Fulham, and they were like, oh, you're good for them but not for us. But
he did score against us, didn't he? That's the thing.
Yeah,
I mean, it was stupid but funny at the same time.
I want to nominate his goal actually against us for Fulham when they were playing with 10 men for literally 90 minutes after Callas got sent off. I've never felt more frustrated coming out of a game where you think, yeah, we should have won that. Especially to a team where you're leading and you're against 10 men in a team that should be tiring after being down to 10 men for 90 minutes. And the Chris Gunter tackle, or the non-tackle on Lucas Piazon that led to that goal, I think that's my comedy moment.
So, Dave, as your two penny
I have to agree with you about Alan Partridge. Comedy moment, that was pure funny, but also in a funny sick sort of way, it was also the catalyst of getting us to the kick up the bum what we needed last season. So it was a double-edged sword funny moment, really.
Can I just throw another one in that's a bit random?
Absolutely.
Joseph Mendes scoring those 2 goals, and Jacob Southcoin promising, what was it, to get his name on the back of the shirt for the next season. So I think that was a comedy moment because it was almost daring him to do it, and he did it.
And the resulting memes that followed.
Yes, I mean, I'm going to pick a winner out of this, aren't I?
You're the boss, Mark. Go on.
Yeah, come on, Mark.
Well, we had Burnley pitch invasion in 2014, Lady Sassima's song in 2015 on the pitch against Leeds. That was always funny. Hal Robson-Kanu's goal against Belgium won it last year. I don't know. It's either going to be the Norwich performance or the Piazon returning to troll Reading. And I just think there is, as much as I nominated the Norwich game for a reason, there is just such a delicious irony about Lucas Piazon coming and trolling us, purely because it's so intrinsically Reading that we would let that happen.
Yeah.
It's just so typical that a player would come back and score and then wind up our fans and become involved in some perverse Twitter controversy at the same time.
And then get injured.
and then break his leg against Leeds of all teams as well.
Yeah, I just think the existence of Lucas Piazon is the comedy moment of 2017, really, isn't it?
And that being an ex-Reading player as well that did it. So yeah, it's one of those things.
It's almost perfectly formed, isn't it? So we move on then to 2 more now to go as we go on to the Pavel Pogrebniak Most Missed Player Award. Tom Crocker's gone for Danny Williams, as has Ollie Allen, as has Sim Pickup. So,
as have I.
As has Steve Curtis. Any more takers on Danny Williams?
I know he's still at the club, but a beat has definitely been missed in the second half of the year.
Is there something going on there?
I've got a confession to make. Yeah, I actually know his uncle. He's paying me to say this tonight. So,
something which isn't a player, but I think Stephen Reid is maybe being missed.
Oh yes, that's a very good one.
More than what we're necessarily thinking, because of the experience in the leagues and the communication there. Who knows why he left, but yeah, I think that may have impacted more than what we realised.
From a serious standpoint, I'm actually going for a beater, but I think sort of you were right on Stephen Reid. I think sort of losing him as a coach, and it's no coincidence that he's gone to Crystal Palace and their form is completely picked up. I think you got to go with Danny Williams. Well, the big American sort of, and he didn't have the greatest of time to begin with at Reading, but sort of last season he was one of the pick-out players, one of the standout players, and we haven't really replaced him.
For me, it takes a lot for me to say Danny Williams because I wasn't a massive fan of him while he was at the club. And I really got wound up with him shooting from miles out for no reason when there was a pass on. But now he's gone, you kind of see, I now see what he brought to the team, and he brought a drive and running power to him that no other player has. You could argue Bakuna maybe could get that kind of level, but he hasn't.
I would say about Danny Williams that he was the best player during the playoffs by some distance that we had. I'm going to go for Jan Kermorgant as Reading's most missed player because we've missed the Kermorgant of early 2016 in the later part of 2016 or 2017 even. Jan Kermorgant of 2016 wasn't much to talk about.
On that point, you could argue about John Swift.
Yeah, the thing is with John Swift is that he has come and gone, but I'd say we've not missed him as much when he's gone, if you know what I mean. What we've missed out of Kermorgant has been, so very basic, and that it's the goals and that it's what he provides, and he hasn't at any point in the latter half of 2017 showed that. So he's my nomination, but to be honest, the winner is Adam Federici 2015, Aaron Tispolo 2016, 2017 most missed Reading player is Danny Williams.
Please come back, Danny.
I was going to say, was that applause meant to sort of tempt him back? Like, oh, we miss you.
He's not playing much for Huddersfield. We need you.
He's on the bench. He's doing all right, and he's never going to do any better than that.
Tell you who's not doing well. Aaron Shibola.
I was going to say, where is he now?
MK Dons, isn't it?
So well.
No, I think they sent him back.
Job centre.
I think they sent him back to Villa. I think that's the last I heard of Tisbola.
That's a damning indictment. Well, let's move on to breakout prediction then, as AKA the most cursed award in Reading Football Club history. Let's run through some of the predictions that we've had. Breakout prediction in 2013 was Royston Drenthe, who has since retired. He's not even 30 yet. Dominic Samuel in 2014 now plays in League One. Jonathan Bond in 2015 now plays in League One. Yaku Meite in 2016 now plays on the bench for a second division French team. And this year, predictions from the other three guys are Omar Richards, Andy Rin-Omhota, and Sam Smith. I'm going to say Omar Richards because I think he is a very good left back and he's not quite broken out yet, so we just get in there now before he does. You
would argue that he's the closest to the first team out of those names. I think one maybe for future is Danny Loader, so that's why I'm not going for him. I'm actually going to say Andy Rinamatoa, if that's how you pronounce it.
However you pronounce it.
Just because I think you see a lot of Ledgerwood in his play. he's the closest thing that we've got to Mikael Edgeworth, that kind of calming influence in midfield, get his foot on the ball and he won't lose it. And in the League Cup games that he played earlier in the season, you can't say he looked out of place. And I think that's the biggest compliment you can give to a player that's come to a club from non-league.
Yeah.
Steve?
For me, I want to throw Tilehurst Watson's name out there because I think he's been a bit forgotten.
He was nominated last year as well, actually.
Yeah, so last year it looked like he was going to break it.
I think he's another one that's fallen victim to the injury curse.
And then obviously that didn't happen. And now this season the hot young fullback is Omar Richards, but I think Tilehurst Watson could still get back in the side because Bakuna should really play midfield, and then Gunter and Watson could be competition. But I am going to go for Omar Richards because I'm going for a safe bet.
I'm coming up with a different name. Centre back, Icelandic. It all depends what happens to Liam Moore, I suppose, as we keep talking about. Hopefully he will stay for the long term, but I think he could be an interesting breakout
Axel
star.
Andresen?
Indeed, yeah, that is the guy. We've got a good history with Icelandic players. He settled in well. He's done well in all the other clubs, and he's an under-21 international. So I think he could be good.
Massive throw-in.
I think so.
Wasn't that Sammy Fridtjonsson was the throw-in one?
Hasn't he gone? I think he's now.
Yeah, he's gone.
He's gone now.
Andresen might have a good throw on it, but I know Fridtjonsson definitely did. I think it's Fridtjonsson. He's gone. He's gone now anyway.
And I think it's a compliment to Andresen when you listen to a manager sort of say that you wanted him, as was the case with the manager at Torquay, and the fact that he was made captain, I think, at Bath City towards the back end of last season.
I think he scored quite a few goals.
It shows that he at 17, 18, he's definitely one that could progress.
Yeah.
But like you say, it's all about getting a spot inside.
There we have it then, lads. It's the final award. Are you going to say something?
I was going to throw someone else out there. Thinking centre backs, Rob Dickie could throw him in there as well.
I don't think he's at the club anymore.
I think his time's more been and gone. If he's going to break out, I think he would.
Didn't he get recalled last season and was on the bench a couple of times? I might be imagining it.
I don't know. I don't know. He was in and around it, but I remember that being a couple of years ago. I don't think he's too. He played right back in the final game of the season against Blackburn, or final away game of the season, whatever it was.
Anyway, sorry.
No, Rob, I'm leaving it in there, mate. So you're gonna have to stick by your word, and if he comes through next year, then you will be.
There will be another name actually that I would like to say, and he's actually doing really well.
Is it Jordan Abita?
It's not Jordan Abita. It's Irish. Plays under 23s, doing really well.
Oh, is it Josh Barnett?
Josh Barrett. Josh Barrett. He's been one that's been on the verge, it seems, for a while, but it seems like actually in the under 23s he seems to be picking up his performances a little bit, because you see he's picking up Man of the Match awards and scoring goals for the under 23s.
Yeah, with Barrett, I'm quite happy for him not to be winning a breakout prediction award, because I get the sense of him as a player. It's good that he has the attention off him a little bit, and just go away and work on your game and come back, and then come back into the team and show us what you can do. Because a player who was in the team under McDermott for a little bit, it's good to have them in there, but just every now and again, just take the limelight off him, just take the pressure off him, and hopefully he'll come back into the team in the next 12 months or so and show what he can do. So that is Omar Richards then as the breakout prediction for 2017. I mean, we can clap, but I mean the list.
He won the award.
He has won the award. So
no pressure, Omar.
The list of winners does make it a little bit worrying.
Although you could argue with Dominic Samuel, he's doing quite well for Blackburn. The rest, not so much.
Well, Jonathan Bond is still on the books of the club, so never say never. If something happens to Manoni, then we may have to bring him back or something, but I still doubt it very much. Well, we'll have to move on then. That's onto the mailbag. Thank you very much for everyone who's got in touch. You can always get in touch at thetilehurstend@gmail.com, or you can get on the Facebook or Twitter. Just let us know that it's something you want talked about on the podcast, and we will happily do that.
Get social with the boys.
Find them on Twitter
at the Tilehurst End
and facebook.com/the Tilehurst End.
And once again, I'd like to thank everyone who gets in touch and sends in the mailbag question, because, to be honest, sometimes there's not very much to talk about at Reading Football Club, and we do our best. So hopefully your mailbag questions will keep us relevant and keep us pointing where you want us to point. And the first one is XX Legend has asked us, do you think we can still get in the playoffs?
No. Sorry.
Steve Curtis says no. And Dave, what do you think?
I think we've got to win every game over the festive season, set up January and be consistent with clean sheets as well. But it's a big, big if. Heart says yes, head says no.
For me, there's a very slim outside chance now. I'm sort of looking at it, and I think if we were to get a run onto the playoffs, we would need it to win on Saturday.
Yeah.
A point would not have been enough because they're above us, and they're one of those teams that are chasing for that in the playoffs.
Quantify my no. Rather than just
Please elaborate.
leave it at no. I mean, I think a lot of fans think that if we get a striker in January, that solves all of our problems and we'll go flying up the table. But the issue isn't just striker. They're, just generally the way they're playing, and the team's consistency as a whole isn't where it needs to be getting in the playoffs. And I think you need to buy 3 proper first team players in January, striker, midfield, left back, for example, to actually make a decent go of getting in form, getting momentum, getting in the playoffs. And I don't think it's going to happen.
I completely concur with that. It's clear that sort of the areas of the team that need improvement. I think the one thing that we can say is that we do have players that are going to come back from injury that will improve our side, and not just the side but the depth of the squad, because I think that's seriously been lacking. But I think we're kind of in for a mid-table. If we get top half of mid-table, I think I'd be happy with that, considering the start we had and the amount of injuries the squad has actually had to deal with.
Is one of those injuries Jordan Obita by any chance?
He is, yes.
To be honest, I mean, I just get a sense that when we say I'm happy with mid-table, I'm just not happy with it. It's just not what I watch my football team to do, to be honest. I totally understand with the, relative to how we did at the start of the season, it could have gone very worse. We could have been in relegation battle, sacking Stam, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
But to be honest, if we're going to finish 12th, let's say, I would want that final 6 or 7 weeks of the season to be a good 5 wins, 4 wins, a couple of draws. You have to end on momentum to take it into next season if you are going to be mid-table.
I think in the Championship there's always an outside chance. I mean, you look at Sheffield United, you would have said they were a lock, early in the season to sort of get in the playoffs, but now they've hit that rookie patch, and you hope that Reading's rookie patch is behind them, that you can kind of see them progressing and going forward. But I think the Cardiff game, if they'd won that 8 points, is makeable.
Yeah.
Now it's 10, 11, and it's kind of like you kind of get into the realms of 4 or 5 games that teams need to lose, and and it's the amount of teams that you need to that are above us as well.
Well, the thing is
between us and the playoff spot,
we've got like Norwich and Brentford and Sheffield Wednesday all around us. Now, one of those teams will make a run for the playoffs. You can guarantee it in the Championship. Every year there's always one team that does it. But the idea that it will be Reading at the moment, I just don't quite see it. We have the potential, definitely. I certainly think that if the attack gets in order, maybe we get a midfielder or a striker in that really makes everything click, then that's great. But the idea that we do sign that player in January, for me, is just a little bit out of the realms of possibility. I don't think they're always going in January. Our January signings over the years, we've got lucky with people like Jason Roberts, and Ledgett Wood have done really well, Andy Griffin, but it's not all, certainly in the last couple of years it hasn't happened. I mean, you look at Lewis Grabban last year, ideal signing on the face of it, just didn't do very well. So if that's what it's hinging on, I don't have much hope they'll make the playoffs.
I think with Grabban though, he was coming back from a long-term injury.
And he was played in every position that wasn't striker.
But a striker. But, you could argue that, he would be ideal now, especially now he's got a year of games under his belt. there's rumours that Sunderland, he might have his loan terminated at Sunderland by Bournemouth. But I think we've shown that we would have gone for him in the summer if Stan believed in him. Well, I can't see us going back for, but like we said, it's not just a striker that we need. It's other areas of the team that need resolving.
Well, maintaining the theme of the transfer window, this is basically our transfer window preview section of the show. In the mailbag, Michael Kearns asked, what left back would you say is a good to fill in the spot for Ibita if we decide to get a left back? I mean, to be honest, we kind of discussed left back quite a lot. I think Blackett is there and Omar Richards is the one that we have. I mean, that's 3 left backs at the club. I don't think we don't need to sign a left back, do we?
I saw a random rumour that we were linked with Declan John from Rangers.
Yeah.
Which doesn't really...
I'd be annoyed if we signed a left back.
Yeah.
Because I think you've got Omar Richards there. He has shown in his games this season that he is capable, and if he's given a chance, he will do well, or at least show that he can fill in while Ibita's out.
And there's another name that hopefully will be back soon is in Callum Harriott, that could kind of, if you played the 3, if you played the 3 at the back, could sort of fill in that wing back role that Ibita was doing well.
Yeah. But I think, if we went out and signed a left back, you would be stunting Omar Richards' growth.
I agree.
Because you'd probably send them out on loan, and then a lot of the players we send out on loan kind of don't come back. So
yeah. Well, Jack Simmons asked, are there any ex-Reading players still playing in the Football League that you would consider bringing back into the sort of current team? Dave, is there anyone sort of floating around there off the top of my head? I mean, Angus MacDonald at Barnsley for centre-backs doing all right. You've got Tarek Fosu playing at Charlton he's kind of dropped off the radar a little bit. What other names?
James
Henry, Jake Cooper,
Shibola or
Tishbola. Any names? Any of those take your fancy at the moment, or
I don't think so. I don't think they're any better than what we've got already. If we're going to bend the rules a little bit, Shane Long isn't playing at the moment, but that would be on the loan. But obviously, that's higher up the league. But he would be ideal. But I don't think we would get him as much as I think we need him.
The one name that screams out to me is Le Fondre. Just having that player off the bench, not necessarily starting, but kind of having that player that that if you give him 1 or 2 chances, he might get a goal. Because it's that type of striker, not necessarily player, but that type of striker that you kind of see that he might improve the squad. But I can't, again, they always say never go back. There's not many.
He wouldn't get in Sam's side because he doesn't play those passes.
I'm just thinking off the bench, kind of as like the 20-minute impact guy.
Yeah, but you've already got Kermigan and Bodvarsson and Sam Smith. If you bring in Le Fondre, you're then stunting Sam Smith, for example.
Well, I mean, a lot of people would want us to sign a striker. I mean, stunting Sam Smith, I admit, it's a thing, but it's not, the priority at the moment, is it too much? I think with Le Fondre, I agree, is that he's not a Stam player. I don't think he'd want to come to us to play off 20 minutes off the bench. I can't think of anyone.
He wouldn't get us in the playoffs.
No,
he's not doing that well.
It was just kind of off the top of my head. But
I can't think of anyone in the Football League at the moment that I think we used to have that we're now missing. I mean, Billy Sharp maybe is a shout, but again, is he a Stam sort of player? Is he the sort of player that actually puts the ball in the back of the net every other week that we're missing at the moment? Let's move on to Joel Fane's question, saying, do you think, especially given our striker situation, that Dennis Rackles will ever play another game for the club? Do you think he'll be shown the door come July when he returns? And to follow up, what would you like to see happen with him? I mean, I said that Dennis Rackles, when he got injured, that was his last game for the club. I always maintained that, and a lot of people didn't weirdly popular with the fans for reasons I don't really understand.
Yeah, well, I'm one of those people that quite liked him because I saw him when he came on for his first ever game for Reading, and I liked how vibrant and energetic he looked, and I just felt like he offered something a little different to the other wingers we had at the time. Like, he was kind of like a winger, striker, forward kind of combination.
Anywhere across the front three sort of thing.
And I think, on the question, he's gone. I don't think he'll come back and play for Reading again. He's not even playing in Poland, I don't think.
No, I think there's rumours that he's looking for another loan club in Poland at the moment.
Yeah, If he's not good enough for a Polish team, he's not going to be good enough for Reading.
No, he was definitely one of those players that you would say was a punt. You know, a very kind of, what was it, 100 to 200,000.
Oh, it wasn't very much at all. I mean, he was like the third top scorer in the Elkestratka for that season. I mean, it was a decent punt. I was happy we signed him. Just didn't work out. David, would you say there's anything about Rackles that is worth keeping, or is he more or less someone you just move on now?
I just don't think Stam likes a little terrier type striker. The smaller, he likes the big lumps almost. You know, you take the players. 3 strikers, you know, including Sam Smith. You know, he's a big guy who will get himself about the place. The sort of tiny striker doesn't seem to be in Stam's plan, and when we do have tiny players like Aluka, he plays them on the wing as such. You know, anyway. I
think you can look at Rackles and think, he's gone.
Yeah.
You know, there's no way that he would force his way back. And I think I made the comment before we started the pod that I think Yakin Mate has got more chance of being seen in a Reading shirt again than
and he's
Dennis
a beast
Rackles
of
had.
a player. He's not tiny, is he?
Well, you look at Rackles, and he's predominantly a winger, right?
Yeah.
He's a winger striker, but mostly a winger. How many wing options do we have at the club? We've got
too many
already, let alone bringing him back, and then he has to fight his way past all 6 options there are. It's just not going to happen.
No, it's a shame, but it's kind of like sometimes you take a flyer on a player and it works out, as with Shane Long and Kevin Doyle famously, and then others you can kind of see it coming down the track of this was an absolute punt.
Yeah,
it just hasn't worked.
Well, that's c'est la vie as it is. Basically, with Dennis Rackles, we'll have to see what happens when he comes back in the new year and in the summer. And we'll move on now to any other business to round off the show. The show's not going to be back until the new year, so we'll go through the Christmas period as it was. And just with regards to the mailbag, if anyone has any questions over the Christmas period, I'd like to return to the show in January with sort of a reverse Christmas. I'd like a bulging mailbag to return to, as opposed to giving out presents. It's sort of the opposite way around to Santa Claus in that sort of sense.
So that might mean, as Westy says, we've had a really bad Christmas.
If we've had a terrible Christmas, then there'll be plenty to talk about, no doubt, in January. But we've got two home games, 2 away games to preview in any other business. And any more mailbag questions you have, get them down to thetilehurstend@gmail.com. And here we are with any other business.
The Tilehurst End Podcast. By Reading fans, for Reading fans.
Well, Brian McDermott always said you take it game by game and that you don't want to really overthink things, but that's not quite how podcasts work. So I'm going to go through the next 4 games and I want a points total out of each of you as to what would be acceptable. For a team that's in 14th, remember, we're not necessarily a team that's going to be winning every game. So we're at home to Burton on the 23rd, the 500th game at the Mailbag Stadium. There's absolutely loads going to go up on the website as you're listening to this. Go up on thetilehurstend.com. We're going to have our Medeski memories. Myself and Will from the Tilehurst End have done ours so far. We've got 10 times that Reading fans made the headlines at Medeski Stadium, a really nice run through on that. So we've got loads of content on the 500th game on the website for anybody looking for that, and it is obviously a £5 to go to Burton, so if you're around to get yourself down to it. Bristol City away on Boxing Day, then I think it's on the 28th we go to Barnsley, and that's also away. Then first game of 2018 will be at home to Birmingham. Those are decent fixtures for the Christmas period. There's only one big trip in there, which you can usually get 2 or 3 in there quite badly. Burton and Birmingham at home are basically 2 of the worst teams in the league at the moment, so I think we're probably going to all agree that those are 2 wins. And Bristol City away, not a great game to have, but also we've actually done all right at Derby and Leeds.
Local Derby though.
Yeah,
it should be a decent away following.
I think at Bristol City, haven't we won our last 2 or 3 down there?
Yeah, we definitely won the last 2 since they've redeveloped the stadium, and I've been down for a 2-0 comeback actually twice now we've had over the last 10 years or so. So it's a decent place to go to. Steve, first up then, how many points do you want out of that 4-game period?
Being pessimistic, 6. Optimistic, 8. But I go mostly 6. You win your 2 home games, and it's a busy fixture list. Tiredness and fatigue and rotation will come into play. 2 wins out of 4. I
wouldn't be too unhappy with that. Chris, where are you at with that?
7 points. I kind of look at that Bristol City away game and I think they're absolutely flying at the moment. It's going to be a tricky one. It's a bit like the Ipswich game where if we start well, I think we can get something from it. So I'm kind of looking at the 2 home wins, as we've already said, and I think I'd be happy with a point not away at Barnsley. We don't generally do well there. I think we won there last season, but genuinely we either get turned over or we draw there. So I think I'm looking at it and I think 7 points. 7 points with a fair total.
I think if we want to get in the playoffs, we need 10 points. Realistically, I think we'll get 5 points, which breaks my heart to say so. And it'll probably be against the teams we don't expect to get them from.
So a win at Bristol and then 2 draws at home, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I think 9 points is what I would want, because if we're going to, push up the table, that sort of thing, I wouldn't rule out Barnsley or Burton or someone upsetting us. It'd be typical 500th game of the day, someone to beat us. I do think we'll beat Burton, though. I think we'll beat Birmingham, and I think we'll get a win out of one of those Bristol-Barnsley games. We're talking about rotations for ourselves and everything. It's exactly the same for the other team. Bristol are liable to have a dodgy game at home. Barnsley is certainly liable to play pretty badly. So I'm confident that we can get at least a win out of that, and 9 points, I think, is my... It's not going to be any higher than that. My minimum requirement, it's got to be 7. You've got to take a point out of one of those away games. Got to win your home games. That's how it is. And let's get a prediction from you guys then for the Burton game. I want a score line, as we obviously have in the prediction league. So Chris, what's your prediction for Burton?
2-0 home win.
I've also gone 2-0. Stephen?
3-0.
3-0. Nice.
Yeah.
I'm going 3-2 home win, but 2-1 down at half time.
Oh.
Get some good odds on that. #GambleAway. Prediction league wise, Handbags, who was joining us tonight, sadly can't, is on 8 points. So he's bottom of the prediction league, besmirching himself last week, but then he did go for Reading win at Ipswich. So in some sense, there is only himself to blame. Johnny's on 9, myself and Westy on 10, Wim is on 11, Tom Crocker out ahead on 13. I've actually gone through... If all of our scores are correct, you can kind of tell how optimistic or pessimistic we are, based on if all of our scores are correct, how many points would be on. Handbags has the lowest points total based off his prediction. So if all Handbags' predictions are correct, he'd have 24 points, which is actually only 3 less than we have at the moment, and yet he's bottom of the prediction league. So work that one out, as far as I'm aware. Tom Crocker, who's leading the prediction league, is also the most optimistic. He would have 36 points at the moment, which would put us about 7th, and then everyone else kind of in between that. 37 points at the moment, put us in the playoffs. We're currently on 27 off of 22 games. Relegation zone would be 17 points, so we are really the definition of mid-table at the moment. So just to round off this podcast then, episode 148 of the Tilehurst End Podcast, thank you everybody who's made it this far in, and thanks to the guys who've come here. I just want to... Just a sentence to sum up how you think 2018 is going to go, and I'll start with you, Chris.
Put me on the spot. Signings and recovery from injury. I think get key players back, and I think we can fly.
Stephen?
Only my mother calls me Stephen. I think Stan will implement his philosophy more, and we'll have a couple of decent signings.
Dave?
One word: unpredictable.
That's sitting on the fence a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah.
Only a fool would predict. Well, yes, that's what I'm asking. For myself, I just think it's going to be mid-table with a little bit of progress, hopefully over the season, and then the summer. After next season, what teams are going to be in the Championship is going to be a big factor. We could be having Huddersfield and Brighton come back down, which would probably make it a little bit of an easier league. If we have, West Brom and Stoke and Swansea all go down, those are teams that have been established Premier League teams for a while. That will shake up the Championship quite a lot. Even if a Newcastle or even a West Ham go down, again, it just gets even more mad. If Villa stay down, then you've got even more big teams, and I think the more big teams there are in the Championship, the less predictable it is, the harder it is. And, well, that's it then. I think I'm going to have to thank all of you guys for turning up. Thank you very much, Dave, for hosting us in the Ibis Hotel on the Oxford Road. It's been an absolute pleasure. And maybe we'll be back here one day for the end of season special or Christmas special. And Chris, thanks for coming along.
No worries, Marc.
Steve, Hoops, as always, a pleasure.
Thanks.
It's like you didn't really know then. Is it a pleasure? I'm not sure.
Is it? No, I was trying to think of a Christmas pun, but I couldn't think of one.
You're always a cracker for me, mate. Did it for you. And thanks to everybody who's listened to the Tilehurst End podcast over 2017. It's been a little bit of a difficult year for us in terms of Reading not getting promoted when we would have really liked them to. It would have been really convenient for us to do that change of host and change of scenery and everything all in a mix as well that you don't get to see behind the scenes, but has been plaguing our minds continuously. So thank you for listening. It's always a great privilege to have people listen to our Reading FC podcast. There's always the Patreon campaign if you want to turn that privilege into pounds. And well, that leaves us with the end of 2017. It's going to be an interesting 2018. We know absolutely nothing about how it's going to go. So as always, come on you arse.
You smile.